Alright everyone, it is Dokkan time again, and today I will be doing two builds for the Dragon Ball Heroes units that have just released here on Dokkan Global and JP. This is the last Hero Celebration, so I'm finding myself to need to make sure I'm a little bit more particular about how I make these builds, as these units will no longer be available come next year. So for people that are watching down the line and you see this and you see these crazy units, I am sorry to tell you, you can no longer acquire these units. So, with that all being said, one more thing. If you notice on the right side of the screen of the builds, you'll notice that there's like, in the equipment for like gold and silver, you know, I have like additional and dodge right there. That does not mean that I want you to put one of those type of equips on them. It means either or. So, if it shows that it has a combination one, like dodge or additional, it means if you have those and you want to use those, go ahead. But what I'm trying to tell you is that no, you can use either additional or dodge. And that's kind of what I'm trying to imply here at the beginning before we really get into the nitty gritty. So I'm just going to go ahead and get into these units now that we've got past this intro. Thank you for watching. Please do subscribe and like and comment on any units that I don't have a how to build for, and I will try to help you get those ones up. So Aeos is who we're going to start off with, as she is the most simple one of these two that I decided to put together into one video. Aeos is good, but she's simple. Very simple. As far as 200% leaders go, she can be on just about any of these teams, which is all Heroes teams. They're all 200%, but I think her home, no matter what, is just going to be on a crossover team, unfortunately, because that's what she is. She's kind of like she's a supportive unit. So, there is a couple things I do not like about Aeos that I will say before we get past that one point, is that, one, she's not a Peppy gal. So that severely limits her team usage. Otherwise, I think she would have been in a good placement. But because she's not on Peppy gals, she can't be on several different teams, unfortunately. So she has a Realm of Gods leader at 130. She raises attack and defense on super, and she seals. Very good. She has attack and defense of 120%, plus another defense of 120 when receiving an attack. This you can feel, by the way. She also does get a plus another additional defense of 120% if there's another crossover category ally attacking in the same turn, and when receiving an attack, plus another additional defense 120%. So, to put this lightly, she can tank a lot. I mean, okay, I'm not gonna like pull your leg, but she can definitely get hit pretty hard. But it's post receiving an attack. I would say she's got well over 1 million post defense super. But the thing is that's post defense, so you got to be really careful, as she's not going to have that much defense if she is after she's attacked. It's before. You want her to dodge after she's attacked for sure. All enemies attack and defense plus or minus 24% and 30% chance of stunning all enemies at the start of the turn. Great ability right there. High chance of evading enemies' attack, 50% chance dodge, basically. Plus another additional chance of evading enemies' attack, plus 10% within the same turn, and an additional attack plus 60% up to 240% with each attack evaded. So I think this is a pretty good skill. At the same time, it's very risky. So basically, you want to go full dodge with her, and the more she dodges, the more damage she can potentially output. Am I testing with her on a private server? You know, take your beans with your private server usage. But I never got her damage to go too high, not to the point of where I would warrant giving her anything more than pure dodge. It's still nice to have, but I don't think it's mandatory by any means necessary to give her any crit or anything. She's not a damage dealer. She's a support unit. As you can see after this is all allies key plus 2 attack and defense plus 40%, plus another additional key plus 1 attack and defense plus 24% for crossover category characters, and recovers 24% HP at the end of the turn in which an attack was received. Now, I can't say for sure if this attack received was an actual attack received, or if it also applies to dodge. I did not get enough testing done, in all honesty. She actually dodges quite a bit. I don't know what it is about dodge units with a 60% total chance to dodge from their passive, but whatever the reason for it is, they just dodge more often. I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe it's just my RNG. Maybe it's just my luck with dodge. But she dodges more for me than Pan does. And Pan has 70% chance. So technically Pan has a default 10% higher chance to dodge than Aeos. But Aeos has been dodging more for me in my testing with her, which is quite nice. Her links are nothing that great, though, unfortunately. Telekinesis, more than meets the eye, solid support, Cold Judgment, Master of Magic, Godly Power, and Fierce Battle. Cold Judgment is good, of course, 20% after level 10. But the rest of it is all just kind of here and there. You're not really going to have those activated. I will say if you're rocking an extreme team with Demigras and such, you probably will be able to get those links off specifically. It's not too bad when you rock these guys. I mean, you get the Godly Power for damage, attack. This does help Demigras and other units, of course. And she is supporting by 64%. So, I mean, the defense is, is made up for from no links. So that is just something to keep in mind with her. Her perfect linking partner you're never going to have on the same team with her, basically. Her only teams that are actually going to be on the same team with are heroes, basically. There's no Potara team right now. There's no solid time traveler team. Realm of Gods does also not have a solid team other than, I want to say, maybe Merge Zamasu? Yeah, LR Merge Zamasu. That would probably be the most. And then there's Crossover, of course. Crossover, I wish had a better leader, but it's basically just all heroes units, right? If you really think about it, it's all just heroes units that are rocking the crossover category. But there's nothing wrong with that. But when you look at all of these leaders right here, the only one that can actually be a decent leader to be made as a leader as a crossover would be Pan, as she is a 170, and she has her dodge and support, of course. But, Vegito, Super Saiyan 4 Vegito has way past his prime. He might be a 180 crossover, but he's way past his prime. All of these units right here are way past their prime. Pan is the only good 170 crossover leader, so you'll never really see Aeos at her 100% best, which is fine, because at the end of the day, she is a solid support unit that is just there to dodge and support primarily. So, with that being said, let's just go ahead and take a look at the defense calculations, compliments of Halvard. Okay, so over here we got the defense calculations up, and they are kind of back and forth, but basically before post receiving an attack, before actually attacking, you can get to like 1.5, 1.7 million defense, with other support other than herself. The hard part here is that he's taking into consideration of all of her links being off and extra support from Supreme Kai of Time, which is just unfortunately just not going to happen. So I would assume that her defense on the average will probably be about 1 mil. So she can tank normals, 100% fine. 1 million defense, and, if you have the craziest, weirdest rotation of team, you can get her up to 1.7, dang near 2 million potentially. But, yeah, she can tank normals, which is good. You want units to be able to tank normals, and I think that's the scariest thing about some of these heroes units, is some of these heroes units can't tank anything at all. But Aeos, being a support unit, no, that's fantastic that she can tank normals at the very least. Just make sure and hope, pray to RNGesus that she dodges those supers, because she won't tank a super. But anyways, let's move on to the Warrior in Black, is what his name is. The enigmatic fighter, Warrior in Black, Super Saiyan Dark Dragonball. So, for context of who this character is Bardock. This is actually Xeno Bardock from the Xenoverse games. It's the same Bardock, technically. After the mass events and so... Oh, spoilers, I'm sorry. After the mass events and so forth, he basically casts out his name and searches for more raw power, and he gets that raw power from Aeos, who then summons the Dark Dragon, Shenrong, Dark Dragon. I can't remember what his actual name is, but the Dark Dragon from the Dark Dragon Balls, and gives him Dark Dragon power, basically. He's very powerful, technically speaking. He does actually go toe-to-toe with Super Saiyan Rose. So, I mean, he's not weak by any means in the manga or series, anime series. But unfortunately, his unit is not that great. Yeah. So let's just kind of go into his kit. He does have a couple 200% leaders. This is a hero's unit that does not need to be on a hero's team. I think this hero's unit needs to be on a Super Saiyan team specifically. I actually feel that Bardock is kind of weaker on a hero's team, only defensively speaking. Offensively, Bardock can get a little bit better because he has a better linking partner specifically. He has one specific linking partner that can get all of his links off reliably on a hero's team, but it's just, you know, not all. The heroes teams are actually very bad this time around. I'll get into that when I go over Goku's how to build, if you haven't watched that already. But I would say the Warrior in Black, or Emo Bardock is what I like to kind of call him. His home is definitely with Super Saiyan Vegeta. Yeah, I think Super Saiyan transforming Vegeta is his primary home. Otherwise, yeah, just stick him on with the World Tree Goku specifically as his primary leader choice. He is a 130 Super Saiyan lead. He greatly raises attack and defense, and he also greatly lowers attack and defense. So I will say the one benefit about this Bardock is that when you go into other content like Battlefield, Ultimate Clash, Super Battle Road, Extreme Super Battle Road, any fights that you can lower attack and defense, stun, and seal, I think you'll get a little bit better traction with this Bardock. He has a decent, he has a ceiling, but he has a very low point, and I'm not really sure why they decided to make him this way. But his key +2 attack and defense 150, he has a 30% chance of crit, plus another additional attack and defense 100% when attacking, plus another attack 150% when performing, and chance of performing a critical, plus 30% when target enemy HP is 70% or less. When attacking, if the target enemy's 70 or less, plus an additional attack plus 150 and chance of performing a crit, plus 30% when attacking if the target enemy HP is 40% or less. So basically what this is trying to tell you, I'm sorry, I had to read it in the most deformed way. The HP of the enemy boss that you're targeting specifically matters. So that also is something to keep in mind when you go into other types of content. If there's multiple enemies, if you target an enemy specifically that is on a lower HP than one of the other targets, basically his passive will activate differently. And, you know, if you defeat that enemy and it moves on to a higher HP one, his passive will adjust to the higher HP rather than the lower HP. So, yeah, it's very interesting the way it works. But basically, the lower the enemy's HP, the better this Emo Bardock does. Basically, if the enemy's HP is below 40%, he has a 60% crit chance. Actually, he has like a 90% crit chance because he has a default 30, and then he gets another 30 for below 70%, and then he gets another 30% crit below 40%. So that actually gives him a 90% chance to crit. I would just dang near say that he has an auto crit almost. If you don't crit at 90%, then I'm sorry, you just bad RNG. It does seem like he's going to get a lot of damage when you get to those HP thresholds, but I have tested it already. And even below 40% HP, his damage at max with all of his links going off, with support, he's only hitting about 15 mil. It's very low damage. It's very low damage, unfortunately. But the high crit chance is nice. Being at the very least of 15 mil does cross quite a few thresholds to the point of where he can do some damage. He does get another additional attack, plus 50%, and launches an additional super attack when the target enemy is in attack down status. In attack down, defense down, super attack sealed, or stunned, he can get a free super and an extra 50% attack. This should proc basically as soon as you super attack. So if you super attack an enemy that can be lowered on attack and defense, because Emo Bardock does lower attack and defense, that will proc this, and he will launch an additional super attack. He does have damage reduction. He does have reduced damage received by 40%, and then he gets another plus additional damage reduction of 15% within the same turn before attacking whose enemy is HP. So we got this HP threshold thing again, and he gets another 15 and a 15. So basically the way I'm going to tell you this is initially, Bardock has 40%, he has 40% damage reduction. If the enemy's HP is below 70%, he has 55% damage reduction. If the enemy's HP is below 40%, he has 70% damage reduction. I have tested this, and yes, he can actually tank pretty well at this point. He can tank post-super with the 40% damage reduction. If the enemy is below a certain point, he can actually tank even Beast Gohan to a degree. It's very highly situational on everything. And it also depends on the very last part of his passive, which is plus an additional attack and defense plus 1% and launches an additional super attack for the rest of the battle after delivering a final blow. So this final blow mechanic sucks. This final blow mechanic sucks really bad. As it really determines how well his defense will feel. If you don't have the final blow, he's not going to be able to tank anything, almost. But he can take a decent amount. It's still 40% damage reduction, and as long as you're getting double, triple supers off, I think he can tank defensively pretty well. It's just very highly situational. He's not set in stone. He evolves throughout the battle, or devolves. His links are Saiyan Warrior Race, Super Saiyan, Experienced Fighter, Saiyan Lineage, Saiyan Pride, and Prepared for Battle. Now, if you notice, those are pretty crappy links. I would say Bardock's team is 100% Super Saiyans, primarily because of his actual, partners. There's other Bardocks and so forth, but this is his actual best partner on the Heroes team, just because he's getting all of these, all this damage off. If you didn't notice, he has a lot of big damaging numbers here. He can get up to an extra 70% attack, which does make a difference. It really does make a difference. And with with support, he can do pretty well. Now, what I was saying before with him tanking a Beast Gohan hit, you're all probably looking at me like, Joe, you're freaking crazy. Well, let's go look at the defense numbers here so I can try and, salvage my standing here. So, compliments of Halvard here. After dealing a final blow... Okay, I just remembered. Hold on a sec. Here we go. After dealing a final blow with 40% support, with triple super here, 1.16 million defense on a triple super, and if you have him on a Super Saiyan Vegeta team and you rock the physical Super Saiyan trio, yes, and you get a domain up with like Future Gohan, then yes, he has enough defense that he can actually tank Beast Gohan. But you gotta include the physical Super Saiyan trio. That is the one thing I will say, is that's the saving grace for this Bardock, is that he is good if you put him on the right team with the right support and so forth and henceforth. He's good. He's not great. He's not amazing. He's not top 20, 30, 40, 50. But, he's usable. He is usable to a degree. As far as his build goes, I do suggest you just go full on dodge or additional. It's one of the two. Full dodge or additional. There's no other way about it. On the right side of the screen, you can see it. You got to pick and choose. He is a physical type, so he can have up to 17 or up to 20 built-in additional. And I do have a feeling a lot of people are just going to give him full dodge. That's completely fine. You can do you. I just feel like I'm going to use this Bardock, or Emo Bardock, this warrior in black Emo Bardock, in content that he can thrive in. And that thrive in content is going to be able to be lowering attack and defense. That's going to be able to stun and seal enemies. And I feel like in that environment, that's where he will do his best. And I always love a good lowering attack and defense unit. And he seems to be able to do that pretty well. I would say the worst part of his mechanics is two things. One, the HP. The HP restriction is pretty rough. And then the final blow. The final blow mechanic needing to be off is really difficult. Because if you don't get it on early, then you just kind of screwed later on in the fight. So. But anyways, thank you for watching this entire 20-minute video. I apologize for dragging it out so long. I just want to talk about these units. So, let me know how you're going to build these units. Did you even pull them on the new banner? And what teams are you going to try and rock them with? I would highly suggest you try and rock Super Saiyans with this Bardock. And I would highly suggest you just kind of put this Aeos with any of your heroes units on almost any team that she can be rocked with. I personally have been rocking her with like Mechibora and Demigra on Zamasu's team, who I feel actually is a very good leader to be propping them on. So, anyways, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you all have a good day and a good night.